For Senator Angus King, 600 miles from Washington, this is where the rubber meets the road.
Great to meet you. Have fun. Yes, indeed.
You know, we've been riding around with you as you've been on your motorcycle through Maine over the weekend during this break. You've been talking to a lot of folks, people like the ones here at Sunday River. What have you heard that surprised you?
People are still talking about health care, and they're still saying thank you for your vote.
That surprised you?
Usually when I meet people traveling around, it's sort of, how are you doing, what's going on, you know, isn't it crazy in Washington? But when they start talking about individual issues like health care, that's somewhat unusual.
Thanks for your thoughtfulness.
I'm working at it.
You're doing a great job. King's pushing plenty of horsepower on his Harley at a time when it's usually much slower paced in D.C. But this August recess has been one headline after another, revolving around the president's divisive response to the violence in Charlottesville, where King went to law school.
Have you been satisfied with the president's response to this violence?
No, yes, and no.
Explain that.
No, his first response on Saturday when Charlottesville happened, and he said, well, there's problems on both sides. I didn't think that was the right response. Then I think it was Monday, he had a press conference where he said all the right things, and then Tuesday he started answering questions and went back to Saturdays. They're not fine people marching under the Nazi flag, and I think it was a false equivalence that really muddied the issue. There's nothing good about bigotry and hatred and anti-Semitism. These people were chanting, you can't replace us with Jews. I mean, come on.
The president would say he condemned neo-Nazism. He condemned the KKK. Is that not enough for you?
He did on Monday, but then on Tuesday he got back into this thing about, well, a little bit on both sides, and both sides were violent, and sort of tried to make it sound like it was equivalent. I don't know. I think he was just talking about what he felt was on the top of his mind.
Do you believe that the president believes in some of those views?
I don't think so. I think part of the problem is being president and talking, anything you say is policy. And I think he's used to just talking, you know, talking with his friends and thinking off the top of his head. You can't do that when you're president. You're setting a moral tone for the country. You can move markets. You can start a war. I mean, you have to be really careful about every word you say, and I don't think he gets that.
So what should he do now?
Number one, I think he should stop tweeting.
Is that realistic?
Of course it is. He can just stop.
It's sort of crazy. But isn't it sad when being reasonable is a remarkable quality? People say, thank you for being reasonable. Huh?
Stay off Twitter?
Yeah.
You're going to have a very busy fall after this August recess. And
I'll say we have 3 weeks to do a budget and do the debt ceiling.
Can you?
Yes, it can be done.
Really? You
Will it
had
be
7
done?
months and Congress didn't do too much.
Of course. Well, Congress only operates just like everybody else on deadlines.
So you think, given that, the pressures of the end of September come and you guys will get it done?
I'm not so sure about the budget. The budget could be done. We could do a budget in a week. It's all the preparatory work has been done. The question is, will the leadership have the will to do it and just get it done? The debt ceiling, that's a pretty straightforward vote.
Is tax reform realistic in the fall? That's something that's very important to President Trump, to some Republicans.
I think it's going to be very tough. There's a reason tax reform hasn't been done since 1986, because it's hard. And there are winners and losers, and Congress isn't very good at making those kinds of judgments.
The last 2 weeks of recess in Maine, flying by.
But I can tell you, seeing Maine by motorcycle is a great way to go, because the phone never rings.